This meeting is being recorded.
All right. You do not need Nearpod, no. It just makes the lesson more interactive. You're gonna see my slides up on the screen no matter what. I'll probably switch back and forth between student and teacher mode so you can kind of see the difference. And I will give you the, if you go to this bit.ly right here, it will give you the Wakelet that I've prepared that also has this slide deck in it. So lots of different ways you can get this information. And real quick, hold on one second. I am sharing my whole screen so you guys are gonna like see behind the magic a little bit. Let me give you one more link. This is a link to that Wakelet. Nope, that is not it. Hold on. Wrong one. Try that one more time. Copied. There we go. So there's a link to that Wakelet that has everything in it. If you would like to get that going also. It also has a slide deck there. All right, I think the gang's all here. So let's get going. My name is Christia Osborne Preston. I am a K-5 humanities technology teacher in Clark County. I teach at Roundy Elementary. That is a Title I school, mostly ELL students. I am a Google certified innovator as well as a National Board certified teacher. I've really enjoyed the past few years working with the state, helping create digital resources for teachers and just really supporting teachers any way I can. And that is a little bit about me. So I'm an advanced in Nearpod slide. Let's talk a little bit about our agenda. So we're gonna have a little check-in, very short. We'll have an introduction. Then we're gonna take a peek kind of inside some of the things I do in my classroom. I have lots of resources for you. And then a little bit of a reflection. So where are you kind of on the spectrum of comfort level with teaching computer science? So just in the chat for this one, type either anywhere from 1 to 4, you're like totally love it, into it, know a lot about it, could teach people, that'd be level 4. Number 1, like this is your first kind of foray into teaching coding. So 2s, 1s, kind of right there in the middle. Awesome. 1, 3. Cool, love it. 2.5, that's definitely right in the middle, right? Well, I have to say, so this is, I should say, I taught kindergarten for 19 years. This is my 25th year teaching. So after teaching kindergarten for 19 years, my principal came to me and said, hey, I would love for you to start a technology program at my school. So for the last 4 years, I have taught the humanities/technology. So like one, that was me, like when I started that whole thing, definitely. So I totally know where you're coming from if you're a 1. Now, I don't know, I think I would say I'm a 3.5. I've taught a lot of it. I know a lot about it. I need to learn more for sure. But definitely, those of you who are saying kinder is your hardest, I totally agree with you. Like, especially when we're talking about coding, it is hard, but it's also super fun. When you figure out what they need, it's awesome. All right, so as I said, all your resources are gonna be in this Wakelet. Let me switch over really quick and just show you what that looks like. So Wakelet is a completely free program or a platform. It is a way to bookmark and collect resources, and you put them into these Wakelet collections. I can share the collection. Not only that, I can collaborate on the collection with other people. So if I'm doing lesson planning or something, we can all be on this collaborative Wakelet, put all of our resources in it. They do have a student program where you can actually have students collaborate using Wakelet. And I think they're on our safe list in CCSD. I'm not positive about that, but as you see, this would be the session resources that I'll go over. Then I just have tons. Here's some background. research. Here's some unplugged coding activities. You can keep scrolling and scrolling. As you see, I've added to this quite a lot. You've got some CS first resources, keep going, some online stuff. And way at the bottom, you've got some videos. And these are all, as I said, it's free. You don't even have to log in to use it. As long as you have this link, you can always get in here. But if you do want to sign up and get an account, it's totally free. So we'll definitely be going over a lot of these during our session. Whoops. Oh, that did not work. There we go. I gotta switch back tabs. My computer doesn't like all the tabs I have open today either. All right. So as I said, it was like 4 years ago, I started teaching coding or teaching technology. And so the very first thing I did is, because, right at the beginning of that school year, I had no technology. And my principal ended up giving me, Chromebooks, iPads. That was before pandemic, so don't need the Chromebooks anymore. But it was a while before I got them. So I was like, well, what can I do as a student? So the very first thing I did was ask every single student. At the time I taught about 900, what do you want to learn or do this year in technology? They had never had that class before. So I had them all write or draw, it was kinder or first grade, something that they wanted to do and just stick it on a sticky note. And so I actually have a double portable. I'm pretty lucky. And so all my boards were covered with these sticky notes. And as I started reading them, I kept seeing coding, robotics, make video games. And I was like, oh boy, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But just doing this activity, I knew it was super duper relevant to students. And it was something that I needed to educate myself on and just figure out how I was going to do that. So we're going to start out with kind of just thinking about what is coding, and we're going to do something called an Edgy protocol. And Edgy protocols were created by Marlena Hebern and Don Carippo. This is only 3 books. There's several more books that have been created. And Edgy protocols are really these lesson frames that you teach the students. And then once they know the frame, you can really apply any content to that frame. When you're first learning the framework, you give them low cognitive load with fun activities, but then once they know the framework, then you can up that cognitive load. So we're going to do one today called thin slides. Thin slides, for this one, you're going to give me one word, it can be a phrase, one image, and one slide. It says 3 minutes, but I don't even think it'll take you that long. But if I'm working with students, 3 minutes is probably good. Now you could do this on slides, of course, but since we're using Nearpod, we're going to use our Collaborate board to do our thin slides. If I was doing this with students, you see at the bottom, it says at the end of them making their thin slides, and they would have 4 seconds to make their claim or their observation, so that your whole lesson could be done in 5 minutes, or this whole activity. So here is our loading. There we go. What comes to mind when you think of coding? Give me one word, one image on one sticky note, right? So how do I do that? So if I go down here and this is the button for image and this is the button for GIF. So you can use either one. So if I click image and I say, I think it is confusing, right? And it's going to give me all these pictures that are confusing. So maybe I pick this guy, I say save, and then I type the word confusing. Oops, if I type better, that would be good. And then you just send it to me with the little airplane, right? Just like that. And now I'm going to approve your posts. I do have it set on moderated. So as a teacher, I would approve all the posts before they go on, which that's a good feature of Nearpod that isn't in all interactive lesson programs. You see, we got people, it's exciting, yes. About a sequence, it can be complex for sure, but some very interesting coding language going on there. And you're seeing these pop up on your screen. And not only that, there's a little heart underneath each one. So if it resonates with you, just give it a little heart. Okay, I'm saying approval. There we go. Yes. Yes, definitely learn from your mistakes. Lots of layers, very sequence, exciting. Awesome. Thanks for participating, everyone. I'll give this about, I don't know, about 30 more seconds. If there's anyone else. I think we might have gotten everyone actually. Give you a chance to give your likes. All right, so as you see that thin slides activity, that's a really quick way to see where everyone is on a topic, to get their thoughts or find out a little bit of what they know about a topic. So thin slides is very fun. All right, I am going to advance the slide in 3, 2, 1. There we go. So what is coding actually? It is using that programming language to write a script for a computer so it understands and allows it to perform its desired action. I just tell the students that this is the way we talk to computers. They have their own language, so we have to speak their language so they do what we want them to do. There's lots of reasons to teach coding. Probably reason 0 is it's going to be on the report card next year. The standards are going to be assessed, so that might be our in Nevada our first reason. But some of the ones that really stick out to me is it's very inclusive. I teach deaf and hard of hearing students as well as low vision students and ELL students, so it really does invite all of them into the task. Because everybody is learning their own, everyone is learning this language, this coding language. Definitely taking risks and failing and persevering, some of the other great reasons to teach coding. And it's funny though, number 1 about allowing students to create. I've been taking the computer science endorsement, and this is really discovering just how creative coding can be, and computer science. All right, let's go to the next one. If we don't know, or maybe you already know, Nevada has kind of 2 sets of content standards for when we're talking about technology. We have our computer science standards, and you see those are the overarching content areas for that. And they also have the integrated technology standards. And there you see your content for that. And pretty much for the last 4 years, I've kind of been straddling the 2, like leaning more heavily on integrated technology. And as I learn more computer science, I kind of get more of it in there for students. I love the integrated technology standards, and I know my students don't get a lot of that in their regular classroom, so I love having them create. They just did graphic design logos, so I'm gonna have to find a way to balance that out if I went full computer science. So what you don't realize is you're probably already teaching a lot of these concepts in some of the regular ed subject areas. So if I'm looking at the kindergarten computer science standard, and I look at the one that says model daily processes by creating and following sets of step-by-step instructions, algorithms, complete a task. So I would tell my students, every time you do a math problem, you're completing an algorithm. Every time you follow directions, you're completing an algorithm. So when I did teach kindergarten, and every morning my students had breakfast in our classroom, so I put this slide up on the board, and this told them step by step that they needed to eat their breakfast, throw their trash away, clean off their table, and then they could choose one of our center activities that they wanted to do. So anytime you have a procedure, you have a list of something they're following, students are following an algorithm. So that is and they love that word algorithm. It's like a really big word. So that's a great way to just teach that vocabulary. It's like, hey, this procedure is an algorithm. All right, let's look at the 5th grade computer science standard. If I look at the one that says seek diverse perspectives for the purpose of improving computational artifacts. So I am sure that in math, right, that's where we get some computation, that computational thinking, do a lot of that in math. I am sure there are times when students are getting that peer feedback on their math. So if you're doing something like that, you're giving them the opportunity to seek diverse perspectives. So for some of us, especially if we're not like a dedicated computer science teacher, we might need to look, okay, where am I already doing these things in other subject areas? If you click on this slide, you should be taken to this spreadsheet. I just attended a PLC for computer science with RPDP, and they have actually taken the code.org standards and aligned them for you with CSTA, which is Computer Science Teachers Association, or I was going to say of America, that didn't make any sense, and with the Nevada standards. So I thought this was a really valuable document so that you could see where code.org, because I think a lot of people are going to rely heavily on code.org. It's not perfect. They've also taken, if you go along these bottom tabs, anywhere where something that should be taught in kindergarten for us isn't, they give you away an activity or they show you where else it's taught in code.org. So I thought this would be a valuable document for you to kind of take a look at. That is also in the Wakelet as well. I'm gonna go. So this is just like a couple minutes to just pause and process. So think about some of the things that I've already talked about. If you wanna just think about it, jot it down. If you wanna type something in the chat, if you've got any questions so far, we'll give it about, probably about a minute or so. So we can just think. Great, I'm glad everybody's like, I'm liking the links. I will share, Lupe, I saw your question. I will share that spreadsheet at the very end. I just got to dig it out of my Google Drive. All right, so about 10 more seconds and we'll keep going. Trying to keep track of my time, y'all. I want to give you time to fill out your evaluations, etc. Okay, let's keep going. So I'm gonna play. So when you play, I do have a video for you to watch, and if there's no sound, it's not a big deal because there's really no sound on the video. It's just the robot jumping around. But in Nearpod, you do have the option to teacher play it, or it plays on the student devices. This is Boston Dynamics. They have tons and tons of these videos of actual robots that they're working on that do human looking things, right? So I love showing these to kids. They know what parkour is. So I love showing them videos like this where they see and they go, no, that's a person in a suit. And I'm like, no, it's a robot. It's a robot. They have the robot that looks like a dog that can go into dangerous situations and do different things. So this is just a great way to get students kind of excited about robotics and coding. And in your Wakelet, I gave you like I gave you their playlist with all those videos on it. So one thing I start out with, especially for the littles, is human coding, right? I say, you're the computer, I'm going to code you. I have these cards. These are actually, as you can see in this video or in this picture, these are from Brooke Brown. She has Teaching Outside the Box, and I think they're like $7 on Teachers Pay Teachers. Now, certainly you could make your own arrows. I mean, that's really basically all you need. These have an arrow and then an action. So as you see, I put the code out in a big long line, students follow it, get in a big conga line, put on some music, super fun. Then I give small groups of students a smaller set of cards, and then they make little pieces of code for the other people in their group, and then they follow it. There is also this kind of fancy dancy resource made by Learning Resource that you can get on Amazon, which has the same sort of thing. These cards that you can lay out, they're made of foam, so they're durable. And they were on sale this summer for like $12. They're normally $40. So if you want to check those out, those would be on Amazon. Another thing I like to do with littles, actually all the kids love these, but these are Code and Go robots. So when I first started out, these were like $15 each, maybe $20. They've gone up to like $39, I think. But I wrote a donor choose grant to get like 7 or 8. It's got the arrows for students to make the mouse go forward, turn. And then I gave them little mazes with tape just on the floor, or I found this shower curtain that had the squares. That's pretty close to how those coding mats go, with the mouse going to each square. So that gives students kind of the opportunity to count and measure that distance that they need to go. So everybody loves Code and Go. So to emulate that online, and if you've ever heard of VBots, those have the same idea as Code and Go. They're just more expensive. There is an online version of the VBot, which is a lot like the Code and Go mouse. There are my arrows. I press go, I make the mouse move around to the different letters. I can spell words. You can see right here, there's a little drop down menu. So I can get math, I can get the city, I can get the country. And this is just on my Clever page, and my students, can do that whenever they have some free time. So what I did this year, I went to the CSTA conference, and someone reminded me that there are things out on the commercial market like this Codapillar. Now this is a toddler toy, preschool toy, but K1, 2 love it anyway. And even my 5th graders the other day were like, "Can we play with the robots?" And I was like, "I don't know, we'll see." Anyway, so Codapillar is you just attach these pieces of code together, and he follows it. Coding critters are pretty cool. They're a lot like the Code and Go mouse with the buttons on the top, and the kids can tell a little story with it. My older kids love these Sphero minis. You can drive them around. You can also code them. They're about the size of a golf ball. They're really cool. And then Lego Coding Express, which is a train that Lego has, where you take little pieces of code, you put it in the track, and then a sensor in the train reads the colors. I did not buy any of these full price. So if you've ever, and I didn't even think about this, but if you ever shop on eBay or Poshmark, I was able to get a lot of these little coding critters for less than $20 on Poshmark, never opened. Same thing for the Codapillar. These were actually used because these are really hard. Codapillars are really hard to find now. The Coding Express and the Sphero Minis I got through Donors Choose. I pretty much I'm the kind of person that just keeps Donors Choose projects on there all the time, and like companies will come and swoop and like pay for all these STEM projects. So that is my that's my tip for that. At the end of my class period, students have 10 minutes of free time, and these are some of the things they can choose to do during that free time. So I get them coding even more. There's also a lot of good coding robots out there. I just got the Sphero Minis, again with a grant. Donors Choose. They are super fun. These little coding cards the students lay out, and then the little car drives over based on their code. So it's a lot of like critical thinking of which one should go. I can't start with the red because that's a stop. I need to put him at the end. VEX 1, 2, 3. These are great for K through 5 because it has the buttons for coding. Then it has, as you can see right here, this is called their coding coder. I can't remember. I think it's just called a coder, where you have little pieces of code that you slide in, or you can code it with a computer. Same thing for Sphero Bolt. I'm trying to get some of these. And then Lego Spikes Essential. These are like these robot building kits that students really love. So let me say this really quickly. If you've ever heard of DRI and the Nevada Robotics. With Nevada Robotics through DRI Research Center, they have a Lego lending library. So what I did this year was I borrowed some Lego some of these kits. It was actually the version before, and the students just absolutely loved it. I could say, okay, you know, there it's app enabled, so I could say, okay, go into this project on the app. It walks them through all the steps. So something like that is really great for you if you're just starting out. And same thing for Sphero Indie. They have 20 lessons just already laid out for you. And you just can do those lessons. So I really highly suggest those. And I suggest looking into Nevada Robotics to borrow some of their robots. All right, I see things in the chat. So let me look really quick. Okay, I think we're good. If I missed something, just definitely let me know. Unplugged coding is another great way to start. Code.org has tons of great lessons for you. Students are actually writing out their code for each other. And so that gets them into knowing how to notate their code. Even kindergartners can do that. And they're kind of challenging each other to follow their code. So Unplugged is great, especially if you don't have devices or the power goes out or the internet goes out, whatnot. Every December is the Hour of Code. So if you're looking to just kind of get your feet wet, this is great. This is a week-long celebration of coding. A lot of companies put out a lot of special things, Code.org, Tinker specifically. So definitely look into Hour of Code when we come around to December. Now, here are some of the programs that I use with my elementary students. This would probably be more like 3, 4, 5, maybe second, depending. Actually, Code.org, I use K5. I mean, I'm discovering with Kinder, it's just harder. They don't have as many computer skills, so I'm probably going to go more physical coding with them. But they have curricular K5. Codable is another good one. Scratch and Scratch Junior and PBS Scratch. I think in CCSD we're not allowed to use these right now. They're not on the safe list. But check in your district if you are. Google CS First is a video-based program where students would watch a video and then they get a coding activity. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Grasshopper is for your more advanced coders, and Swift Playgrounds would be on the iPad. I haven't done much with that. Now for littles, CodeSpark is free for teachers and it rosters through Clever. Codable is also free, but they're putting more and more things behind their paywall. It is rosterable through Clever as well. And then Tinker has a lot of fun coding things like this puppy adventure for your littles. This is what it looks like on one of the sections on my Clever page. As I said, like my students get free time every period, so they can come and do any of these coding activities. Some of those I showed you, the Bbot, they have Codable, they have CodeSpark, Code.org. And then sometimes like interesting coding things will pop up, like the Grinch around Christmas or Moana, a coding activity with her. And then there are some iPad apps you can use. Lightbot Hour is really good and free. All these other ones, like these down here, all have to do with their particular product. So if you have Spheros, you have a couple of different apps that students can use with their products. Those would be more for if you're going to use them. So for me, as I said, like when I first started teaching, I was like, yikes, I don't know how to do this. So whenever I kind of run across these like yikes moments, because even now, I don't always know the answer for how to fix your code. So here are just a few of my go-to strategies. So the first thing I would always do is give it a try. So I would take that code.org level course that I was getting ready to assign, and I would try the first few things on my own, the first few lessons. So I just always give it a try. I went to NVACS robotics training for teachers. They made us build a robot, right? So when I tell kids, okay, I know you can build this, I know because I've actually done it. I'm always making mistakes in front of my students, not necessarily on purpose sometimes, but not always. So really showing them how to fail forward, I think it is something valuable because we're all kind of in this together. When they're asking me questions, a lot of times I like turn it around and I'm like, what are your thoughts on that before I answer the question, because I might not know the answer. I always say we need to lean on each other. So if you don't know how to do, you know, code.org level 7, I say, who's completed level 7? Let's go to that person and let's get their um get some advice from them. And I just make sure they know that we're all learning this together. It's funny, I just told my robotics team, I said, I can't wait for you guys to go to 6th grade because then you're going to get a robotics teacher that knows a lot more than me. They can teach you a lot more stuff. Well, so we definitely learned a lot about robotics together over the last few years. All right, so we're going to pause and process again while I check the chat. If you want to type anything in or jot down any notes. Yeah, the Codapillars are super fun. Again, I got them for like $20 on Poshmark. Oh, that is a good question. I was wondering that too. Like, what is the district going to put behind these CS standards? At least for me, Clark County. Yeah, oh, the bot's super fun with older kids. Yes, thanks, Dr. Leanne. If you have their email, I just couldn't find like their contact to put in there. But I know AJ is doing a session, I think later today. Yep, S3 before me, definitely. Is CodeSpark only K2? I mean, I'm sure they market to K2, but some of my older kids like to do it. They like to reminisce and go back to the good old days when they were little, you know, from 5th grade. Anyway, all right, about 10 more seconds and then we're gonna wrap it up. Yeah, it's so funny. Like I taught kindergarten forever and I hadn't even really thought of doing centers or like choice things during my special, you know, during teaching a special. So in my classroom, there's a whole shelf of building materials. So you can be kind of like engineer, and you can build. You can grab a robot. There's a robot. You can go on my Clever page. That little coding section is just one small section. I got like graphic design and music and art and things. Or you can grab an iPad, and I have a lot of creating apps on there, an AR VR app. So I like giving them that choice. Yes, very true. I mean, I think even these grade levels can do that. Like, okay, which one's better? Which one's easier to log in? Things like that. So coding in real life, I love introducing coding to kids this way. So this is a TED Talk by, at the time he was 10 years old, his name why is his name escaping me? I think it's Tom Suarez. And he, at the age of 10, he had invented a video game. I think it was called Whack a Beaver. Whack a Beaver. So it was like a whack-a-mole game, like for Justin Bieber. And so he talks about that. I mean, you see, I don't know if you can tell, but that's several years ago. So it's interesting to have kids see someone who's their age talking about having a game in the App Store and, you know, being able to do that. So fast forward to now, he has his own website, his own business. I think he graduated you know, with a computer science degree, and he started his own business. And then, so we look at his video and then we take a look at his website. And so they can see, here's the possibilities that they could have. And I put that video, I think also the website in your Wakelet. Google CS First, as I kind of mentioned it, is this video-based curriculum on using computer science. And the great thing is it's integrated into other subject areas. So you can code a story, you can code your hero, you can also code a Google Doodle or your name. So it's got this creative side to it, and that integrates with art. I'm not super positive because for a while it was on our kind of banned list because it's integrated with Scratch. Google has now fixed it so you don't go outside their platform, you stay in it, but you still use Scratch. So I would have to check with the district to see if they're allowing that yet, but you can certainly check into that. And that's nice because I don't need to really necessarily know that much because the students are kind of working their way through those projects on their own. I would say this is 4th grade and up, not for your littles, unless you did some modification. So if you wanna, like, real quick, I'll wait for about a minute while I check the chat. If you wanna click on that and see what they have to offer. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Very good. So we've got the contact information if you want to check out the robot lending library through Nevada Robotics. And they've got a session in room 9 later today. All right, I'm gonna change our slide. Again, there's tons of stuff in the Wakelet about Google CS first, if you want to check it out a little bit more in depth. I created a couple of choice boards. I love giving students choice boards, especially with something like coding. Code.org, the lessons doesn't always appeal to every single student. So giving them the opportunity to code using Star Wars or to code a dance party is another way to kind of get them interested. They would watch this video in the middle, which is Steph Curry. They all love Steph Curry talking about coding and learning coding. And then they could pick one of these activities. And then I have another choice board for younger students. And both of those are in the Wakelet, and you are welcome to modify, change, do whatever you want to those. Whatever works for your student. And then I do have a teacher one if you want to poke around with some of the CS first. This is the Code Your Hero lessons. The brain pop, I think that's about, I can't remember what that brain pop's about, but there's a brain pop. I think it might be what the computer does. So that this one would be for teachers, or if you do any kind of training and you need to have a way teachers can look at stuff. All right, that's enough of me talking. And we're almost done anyway. So let's have a little bit of reflection. So we're going back to Edu protocols. This one is called Sketch and Tell. So you have one source. You would make one slide. In this instance, it's going to be a drawing. We're going to do a draw it. You would explain your drawing. You can type it, and you'd be able to explain your. Oh no, sorry. Let me back up. So we have one slide. You draw to explain your thought, and you explain in writing. Now we probably won't do the explain in writing. I don't know if we have time, but you can if you want. So let me switch over. So what is one takeaway that you have from today? So you have little drawing, and I know it's super hard. You find out when you become a student in Nearpod how hard it is to draw with your mouse and with your trackpad. And like we were asking students to do it all the time when we use Nearpod. So it can be an emoji that you draw. It doesn't, or it could be, just a very simple picture. If you do want to add text, the T for text is where you could get a text box and you can type in there. I think although the pure Edu protocol would have no pictures, this one does still have the you can add in a picture if you want, an image, I should say. So I'm gonna give you about a minute to like maybe draw something that was your takeaway from today. The timer says 5 minutes, but we're not doing 5 minutes. And if you don't want to draw, totally get it. You can type something in the chat as well. And I switched over to my teacher screen so you can see that everyone is, I can see who's drawing. I can see what they're drawing. I can see what they're typing. When you're done, do click that submit button. I always tell the students you have to send it to me, and then it would turn for me green, so I know you've submitted. Good idea. Yep. Awesome. I'm glad you like the links in the Wakelet. That's cool. Okay, while y'all are drawing and finishing that up, I'm gonna go ahead and start dropping your session evaluation into the chat. Okay, Awesome, we got some submitted. Now, as the teacher in Nearpod, I can also highlight, like this person did a great job. They let us, oops, what happened? There we go. Endless possibilities, love it. Oh, your priceless drawing. Coding rocks, and I will be using Lakelet and Nearpod, awesome. Right, so I can highlight these on your screen, which the only other thing it does is it makes other kids mad because they're like still working, but you know. So I just put in the CS session evaluation. That's the one that gets your attendance. I'm also going to drop another evaluation in there, which is just for me. I want to apply to be a Google certified trainer. So I need to get feedback on my sessions. And that's just a generally good rule anyway, to get your feedback. That's a little bit more personalized. So let me grab mine. That one is certainly optional. All right, there you go. So I'm gonna stop our activity in about 10 seconds. Looks like most of you got yours in Wakelet. Awesome. Cool. Younger students, yeah, I definitely struggle teaching the younger ones. So I'm just try to grab as many resources as I can and try it out. As I said, I think I'm moving a little bit away from code.org next year for kinder and really going with physical robots, things like that. All right, so as you're finishing up and you're taking care of those evaluations, definitely just go for it. All you can do is grow your best self, right? Like we have today and tomorrow, I always just want to be better than I was the day before. So as we move forward, we are growing our best self. And I just want to thank everyone for being here and being so positive with your comments and everything. And if I can answer any more questions, I will stay here. I will put a couple links that people have asked me for in the chat, and you can always unmute and ask questions too. Sure, I love sharing it. And I am actually going to go ahead and stop the recording. We're good. Okay.